too lazy to go in the other room and turn the TV off, so you might hear it in the background. Um, Speaking on this whole insurrection, Trump supporters storming the Capitol. Now, for many of us who've been understanding the rhetoric and what's been going on online, for the last year, and many of the sentiments and, the reactions and the responses and the conspiracy theories, this is how I look at it. You got two waves. The first wave is what you saw. Most of those people that stormed the Capitol, in my opinion, are idiots, low information, low IQ, the people who feed into the most obnoxious, conspiracy theories. But, for the most part, they're your working class white people, who, have felt over the last couple of years, right? And we've talked about the white elites basically obliterating, the working class, and how the Democrats played identity politics, and how, they essentially ignored the white working class, which, was a mistake because, they are a huge portion of American population. And so, Trump catered to that, that base, that audience, that we're going to open up the coal mines and get you back to work and make America great again and all that other stuff. Trump catered to that. And so you got a lot of angry white people, right? And then, what's so irritating as an African American is, right, it's like America has never atoned for the transgressions it has committed against the African American population. And we have many problems that continue because, due to prolonged exposure to poverty, redlining, blockbusting, the dumping of drugs in the black community, denial of FHA loans, sending black men disproportionately off to war on the front lines with Vietnam, and, mass incarceration, job discrimination, eminent domain, urban renewal, the 1956 Highway Commission Act. The list just goes on and on and on. The black community, it's like you had reconstruction and that was killed. And then black people were seemingly, able to get it together, with communities like Rosewood and Tulsa, and then jealous white people came in and burnt that down. And then black people, since white people had everything, they, wanted to integrate because white people had everything, and they just figured, oh, we integrated and, white people will get over their evil racist ways, and then, we'll just have a better world. But, in came the, obviously you can't have social equality if you don't have any sort of economic equality or economic parity, right? And so you end up with black people disproportionately poor. We already talked about, people's conditions and environment contribute to social dysfunction. If you have people who don't have resources, you can't expect them to act like people who do have resources, right? And this is what black people have been experiencing, right? And so since any talk about, correcting the problem and, getting white people to, atone for the sins of their father and whatnot, white people over the last couple of years have been, because, black people are demanding more, and then the left, with the way that they play identity politics, which is so irritating because it's just like, it's like what Ann Coulter said. We owe black people. We don't owe, freaking, Mexicans from across the border. We don't owe Syrian refugees. We owe black people. We don't owe immigrants who got here yesterday. But somehow that's gotten lost in translation, and it's been designed that way intentionally, right? This is how the LGBT, the gay agenda came before the black agenda, right? When the gay agenda isn't even conducive or supportive of heteronormative, cisgendered, patriarchal homes, which would contribute to what? An intact black community that would continue, legacies and generational wealth and all that other stuff, right? If everybody was gay, you're not going to have nuclear families. You're not going to have intact communities. You're not going to have what it's supposed to be. I don't know why everybody decided to bring in all this goofy shit and all this rainbow colored, Skittles pack sort of agendas, but, that's not conducive to fixing the black community. So it's like right when we get to the discussion of what needs to happen for the black community, you got feminists, you got LGBT, you got the idea that, black people are just looking for a handout when it's really what black people, are owed. And then the white people who've been squeezed, this middle class that has been squeezed over the, last couple of decades, right? Last thing they want to hear is about what our problems are, even though our problems were at the front of the what needs to be corrected line, right? And so now they're, they feel that they're the victims. They feel that they got the squeeze. Black people are just lazy. They're going to try to paint, however they got to paint it in order to say, look at the current state and the condition of black people. That's just how they are. We can't help or fix that, right? Even though they've essentially let the cement dry, which they should have never done. But the cement has now dried, and now, it would take even more resources to fix many of the problems in the black community. But since the white people are, suffering, they don't want to hear that noise, right? And there's never a good time. It's never a good time to address the racial and social economic injustices against African Americans. It's never a good time. There's always something else that needs to be done before we deal with the Negro question, right? But anyway, I'm saying and I'm not trying to incite anything because, the feds are looking at everything that everybody's saying online now. But I'm saying, I think that, the whole situation was fucked up in terms of the fact that that woman that got shot, people can say what they want about her. I'm like, she was a 4-tour veteran in the Air Force. And I'm like, oh, shit. When I heard that, I was like, oh, y'all done fucked up. Right. Plus, you got the racial aspect because the cop in the Capitol building that shot her just so happened to be the one token, black cop, that was there. Oh, my God, he shot a white woman. Right. So, I've already seen the comments from the white people that are like, he should be arrested. This is a crime. I'm like, funny, you don't got the same energy when it comes to some white cop shooting some black person. But because this is a black cop shooting a white lady, now all of a sudden, they want to say it's a crime, even though clearly we all see that the man was doing his job, because what's his responsibility? To protect the politicians in the Capitol. The door was barricaded. You are not getting past this line. You know what I mean? And the gun was already drawn. And I'm like, and this lady going to take her stupid ass and try to climb through the window. I'm like, okay, you was looking for it. You found it. That's all there is to it. And we all know about the hypocrisy and the double talk and everything else that we see from these white people online. Like, the hypocrisy is over 9,000, that we see online. Right. And so, their argument is y'all got upset about George Floyd and y'all tore the streets up. Right. And remember all the rhetoric that they were saying when black people were doing that. Right. And the liberals and all that other shit. Right. It was, you shoot, you loot, we shoot. It was what other shit that they were saying, obey the law, comply, law and order. That was all that they were saying. But again, when they get upset, when they feel like they've been cheated or they've been wrong, it's perfectly okay and it's justifiable for them to storm, the Capitol, and they're patriots and true Americans. Like this is the flaming hypocrisy of whiteness and white privilege and what people call out when they call out, whiteness and white privilege and white supremacy and all that stuff. See, the problem with that white woman that climbed through that was she been white too long. That's what her problem was. She been white, too goddamn long. So she goes and she think like that's the whole thing. Those white people, they thought because they were the Blue Lives Matter, we support you, law and order, that the powers that be, that law enforcement, that's supposed to be, pro-Trump and everything else. Well, they clearly aren't going to turn on us. Like, they actually thought that they were going to march in there and that they were just going to show them where, the Capitol Police were just going to show them where Nancy Pelosi's office was. Here you go. And here she is. Now you take her to the rooftop and tar and feather her, and then put her on display. Right. Like this is what these people think. Like, they have this, this Paul Revere idea of what it is to be a true American patriot. And there's going to be a Boston Tea Party and all that other nonsense. Right. So that's the first wave. The idiots, the conspiracy theorists, the redneck blue collar, that type of guy. That's what you saw. Okay, the next wave, the second wave, because this is my opinion. I think the fact that woman was a 4-tour veteran and got shot, they're gonna make a martyr out of her. Okay, you will see future terrorist attacks. Okay, in my opinion. Not that I'm advocating for it, not that I'm saying it, not that I'm a part of it, right? I got to make all these disclaimers in the video, but I'm like, no, she's going to be a martyr. And I'm pretty sure the smart people in the federal government already are aware of this. The real folks that you got to, be vigilant about and pay attention to are the veterans. That's just the facts. Because you got a lot of people, man, they go off and they fight for this country and then they realize it's all bullshit and you're fighting for the oligarchy and oil and, these like made up wars and weapons of mass destruction that aren't really there and shit like that. And then they come back, they all got PTSD, they're all stressed out. I mean, more veterans come back and commit suicide, in the States than die overseas in combat, right? That's why you see these guys with the "I got your 6" tattoo, if you ever seen that, with the the semicolon and all that shit, right? It's because they need, they have support groups and whatnot. But there's a lot of people who went off and they thought that they fought for this country for, pure American ideals. And then they came to find out that it's not that. And then they come back, they can't get a job. They're drunk off their ass or doing drugs and everything else like that. And then they join, militias like the 3%ers and Oath Keepers and all these other groups. A lot of those guys are veterans. And I've said this before, first off, even, Cap has pointed this out between, the whole issue of the conflict of power between police officers and veterans. There have been lots of shootouts between police officers and veterans and conflicts between police officers and veterans because the police officers like, well, I'm the authority here. And the veterans like, well, I went and, a bunch of my, fellow soldiers died serving this country. You're not going to treat me certain way. So there's a lot of tension between police officers and veterans, and the fact that you have, again, like, when we have a civilian military, that's what makes the whole thing so different. It's not like Iran or some other country where you don't really have like a civilian military. I don't even know if Iran has a civilian military, but I'm saying most other countries, when you see the military and they go in there and they, really gunning down people and everything else like that, it's because the military is really like the military people are a different class than the rest of the people. That's why you see like, what you saw in like Egypt and shit like that underneath Mubarak and all that stuff. And, what you saw in Turkey, when they had their little coup and stuff like that, there's more separation. In America, the veterans and the people who are active duty and, there's an area of gray, where they interact with each other. Like, in other words, every active duty person right now will eventually become a veteran. So their relationship between veterans and active duty, is one that, in my opinion, makes it very difficult, for the, because they teach the soldiers, you must protect this country against, threats both foreign and domestic. A lot of y'all seem to forget that. But again, I'm a believer that it complicates the issue when your soldiers are feeling some type of way and your veterans are feeling some type of way because they're a part of that poor working class proletariat and they are struggling and they're a part of that shrinking middle class that can't put food on the table or support their family because when they come back from the theater of war, they can't get a job. And then you have these sort of situations where, that woman who tried to climb over the barricade, got shot in the neck. I'm telling you, I'm like second wave. I think that you're going to see some more incidences like you see like we saw with that than people trying to abduct the governor in Michigan. Okay, I definitely think some domestic terrorist, homegrown attacks are coming. I definitely see that. I mean, this is what happened with Timothy McVeigh and the whole Ruby Ridge thing in Waco, Texas. Okay, if you don't know about Ruby Ridge, look up Ruby Ridge. It was basically a guy the government was looking for him and whatnot. They ended up killing his wife, his son, and his dog, and his daughter is the only lone survivor. And he actually killed one of the FBI agents, if I'm not mistaken. And, that shit set off a firestorm. And they've been dealing with all that malicious stuff ever since. The Waco, Texas, the Ruby Ridge, and in my opinion, they're going to take this woman who got killed in that Capitol, and they're going to put her in the same category. And that's just going to be more fuel to the fire in terms of these people that have these sort of, what it is to be a true patriot. Just like in the Division, the True Sons. If you haven't played the game, I mean, what's so crazy is literally if you play the Division 2 on Xbox or PlayStation, if you play the Division 2, which I think is well worth playing the game because that's like one of the only games that I like to play. But I'm saying, from the virus in the game, the dollar flu, to the whole the society collapsing, and you have all these bands and different factions out there in the streets, and then you have the True Sons, which are ex-military, and then you got to go and you got to fight the Black Tusk and all that stuff. I'm just saying, all of it, is very similar to the type of mentalities that we see now. Like I said before, everybody was cheering about this election and whatnot. And I'm like, almost 50% of these people did not vote for Biden. So at the end of the day, this country is divided, and a house divided cannot stand. Now, as an African American, obviously I have my love-hate relationship, with America. Should America stand? Would America collapsing benefit and help black people? Personally, right now, I don't think so, because black people ain't even got their own shit together. It'd be one thing if we were in the position where we had like black Chinatowns and we controlled our own, sector, and we were growing our own food, and whatever happened with the white folks and whatever they were doing, we could sit around and be like, oh, we're good. But we're not good. We're not good at all. Not good by a long shot. And the sad part is if shit gets worse, you know what I'm saying? Bottom line, the threats are going to be coming internally just as much as you think they're going to be coming externally outside the community. You're going to have to deal with Ray Ray and Pookie and these savages. And then not only that, the byproduct of, all of these, sexually irresponsible parents who have not done right by their children. Obviously acknowledging, the collective position that black people have been put in. But I'm saying, there's certain things that, white supremacy's got its foot on our neck. But, there's certain things that we don't need to be, doing. Like you don't need to exacerbate the problem that already exists. But yet somehow you got black people who go out here and they do it. They don't want to demonstrate any amount of discipline and whatnot. And so you have children that were born in that, and, they're totally dysfunctional. You know what I mean? I'm not mad at the rabid dog. I'm mad at the person that let the dog outside of the fence, and the dog went and, contracted rabies from the raccoons and shit, when I told you to keep the dog in the fence. You see, that's how I look at it. But I'm just saying, I just think that, for black people, I'm like, we need to be vigilant. You know what I'm saying? Because ain't no telling. I'm telling you. All these Black Lives Matter did not help the black community. Okay? Black Lives Matter got all these white folks out there, in their fields, whether Black Lives Matter, Antifa, they all smash it together, it's like damn mashed potatoes and shit. They mash it all together to push their talking points and push their agenda. And it's damn near a waste of breath to try to, dissect it all and break it all apart. Because as soon as you do that, they're just going to mash it together anyway. Because, it serves their simple-minded, agenda. where it's Black Lives Matter and Antifa on one side, and it's true patriots on the other side, and it's Trump on one side, and it's Biden and Kamala and socialism on the other side. Like it's just retarded. Like, again, no nuance, just no nuance at all. And I'm saying, just like 9/11, you know what I mean? You got too many of these people that are in their fields, and when people are in their fields, you gotta, like, you don't just ignore that. It's like them, like with 9/11, it's like 19 guys with a box cutter, and these white people running around. They hate us because they hate our freedom. Really, your freedom? They hate you because they hate your freedom. Your freedom. That's why they got mad and hopped on the plane, because of your freedom, not because of 100 years of U.S. foreign policy, right? You know what I mean? Like, you better, when people are that pissed off, you better pay attention, or at least understand why they're pissed off, and try to come up with something, or some type of resolution or something, instead of just brushing it off. I don't even want to talk to the rest of my family about this shit, because I called this shit and I said this shit was going to happen. And I'm like, you keep dismissing these Trump people and acting like, they're just insane. Insane they may be, but you see how they ran up in the damn Capitol unarmed at that, and they took it over. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, their simple-minded asses didn't have a plan. But I'm like, this is, in other words, that type of anger cannot be ignored. Plain and simple. And to the people running around saying, oh, black people wouldn't have done the same thing. Oh, please. If Trump would have won, it would have been BLM and Antifa. They would have been up there doing the same goddamn thing. They spent the whole year, tearing up the streets in damn near every major metropolitan city. And then you're going to sit there and you're going to tell me that if Trump had won, they wouldn't have been doing the same thing. But yet there's countless videos of them just burning and destroying, everything in stores and looting and all this other shit, because they were in their fields. And then you got the people who are, capitalizing on, the chaos and the civil unrest, who were exploiting, the lapse in policing, because the police can't be everywhere and whatnot. Just like I've said with the whole 9 meals away from anarchy and how fragile, the food transport system is in this country and whatnot, law enforcement is the same thing. Again, another reason why I argue that they want to take people's guns away, because look at it. A bunch of unarmed people took over the Capitol. Now, just imagine if all those people were armed. And that's going to be the next argument that the liberals are going to make about why we need assault weapons bans and all that other shit. Because at the end of the day, you got 330 million people. You only got 4 million law enforcement across the country and whatnot. Even if you had 100 million armed citizens, government's not going to be able to stop that. They weren't able to stop Black Lives Matter. They weren't able to stop, Antifa. They're not able to stop, these patriots, and they're not going to be able to stop the second wave of armed patriots. You know what I'm saying? Like that whole, all these people talking about civil war. Oh, it can't happen. All these black people who think it's a fantasy, and they sitting there and they holding the Bible and want to talk about the sweet twinkle of white Jesus in their eye. And they got they got all this hope in their heart because they feel that their politicians got in, and they want to, throw up high fives, and they got, Stacey Abrams, and what's the dude that said, the Reverend and Senator Warsaw, whatever the fuck his name is. I don't even care what his name is. Okay. But, he up on The View and everything, and black people think it's so great, and Whoopi up there, telling people to shut up and clapping their hands and everything. So the fuck what? I mean, seriously, so the fuck what? At the end of the day, the country is divided. Black people are not prepared. Y'all living in a fantasy world. Shit is about to get real. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. You still got a lot of people out of work, unemployed and underemployed. The desperation is going to kick in. You got Congress sitting there going, oh, here's a little $600. You're going to have the landlords. They're going to start freaking out because, the banks are like, yo, you need to pay us our money or we're taking back this damn building. You know what I'm saying? Like shit is still fucked up. And you got people, talking shit like, nana nana boo boo, you Republicans lost, and now that you're out and our guy is in, we're good. And I'm like, y'all are some idiots, man. Some simple-minded idiots, But anyway, that's that. I mean, I just had to share my thoughts on this because, I'm like, shit is about to get real, and for some reason, people just keep ignoring when shit keeps getting realer and realer and realer and realer and realer, and it doesn't matter. It's like, it's amazing to me how, all this fucked up shit that has happened over the last year, and still, people are still acting like, there's this window of normalcy, and I'm like, do you not see what's going on? Like if somebody wrote in my comment section, Olympus has fallen, and y'all just acting like, next week everything gonna be good. Again, you're ignoring what's going on. You're ignoring the conversations. Like I said, but some of the worst people out here are the people who get all of their information from Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC. As opposed to, not just getting their information from social media, but just looking at the landscape. You know what I'm saying? I predicted that Obama was going to win when everybody said Obama wasn't going to win. I predicted that Trump was going to win, when everybody was like, oh, he can't win, And then all this stuff with the the rioting and the looting. I need to go and pull that video from my other channel. Right? You can go to the New Jersey's, self-defense channel and go to that video that I posted, talking, begging black people to arm themselves and prepare, because 9 miles away from Ann Arbor, and I had that video, that image, the thumbnail of that big truck that they had in the road when they came out that tunnel. That tunnel's actually in Pennsylvania, but the cannibals in the movie The Road. If you ever seen The Road, where they had to hide, you know what I mean? And they ate the woman and the child that were running in the field and everything, and the guy was trying to hide from them and whatnot. And they had like this big ass truck, But anyway, I had that as a thumbnail. Go back and listen to that video, and you'll see all the shit that I was predicting in that video about how bad things can get, and it just goes over people's heads. Y'all don't understand the historical significance of what happened yesterday. You're not understanding that. A couple of people have pointed out, the Capitol has not been taken since the War of 1812. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to end this video unceremoniously. I'll probably come back and finish out the video another time. But I figured I could squeeze in this video in a small pocket of time, but wasn't able to complete it. But I'd say, generally speaking, I was pretty much done all my talking points. I was just coming down to the close, but I just hate doing it so unceremoniously. But anyway, so that's all I got for you today. That's my video. SWP out.